everybody? I'm Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, and everybody's got a price for lazy booking. Hey, this is your Olympic hero, Kurt Angle, and you're listening to Lazy Booking. No, it's true. It's damn true. Ho! Hey, folks, I'm WWE Hall of Famer Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and if you want to know what's going on in wrestling, check out Lazy Bookings. Ho!
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new edition of Lazy Booking right here on A2DRadio.com. Brought to you by Gibson Mayer LLC, your certified public accountants, located at 301 Oxford Valley Road in Yardley, PA. Give them a call at 215-369-3300. Tax season is right here on the horizon, so be ready, be prepared, and call Gibson Mayer. Oh, that was bad.
What's up, fam? Welcome to Lazy Booking. Apologize for the late start.
My bad.
My bad. Welcome to Lazy Booking live on A2DRadio.com. Maddie read our sponsors there, and our Scanzano Sports poll question this week, guys. Pretty damn simple. Is Raw now the B show? Yes or no? It's that simple. It was a terrible show this week. It's probably been a decade since I've seen an episode that was this bad. We're going to dive into that. We'll also talk about the complete opposite, which was a very productive Smackdown episode. And then we're going to go through, and I think it's a good week because we're kind of seeing the effects of how Roman's absence on Raw and now, again, having Brock Lesnar as a champion, not having a title holder frequently on the show, how much they're missing having in football we use the term a cowbell that can kind of carry the load, you know? And we're going to talk about that this week, and we're going to see. We're all going to kind of list 5 guys. It could be a top 5 if you want to rank them, or just 5 guys or girls that can potentially fill that role going forward as the quote-unquote cowbell of the company that they can kind of, hang their title on.
You mean bell cow?
Bell cow.
Cowbell.
Cowbell.
More
Whatever.
cowbell.
Cowbell, whatever. Anyway, speaking of titles.
More cowbell.
The champ is here. Champ's here.
The champ is here.
Champ's here. Champ's here. That's right.
You want to explain to him what that is?
Our buddies over at In This Very Ring do have a In This Very Ring Universal Championship that is decided through predictions and fittingly through Survivor Series. The champ is here. The champ is here. So
Yeah, Brodo even called you a champ right before we went live.
Well, listen, we're on champ time now.
Yeah.
We're on champ time. But, guys, let's dive in. And I'm sure we'll talk a little more about that, too, as we go along. Let's dive in. Let's talk about Raw. Is there anything we want to talk about Raw? I could start this off.
Well, if I may, I understand that I was late to the show tonight, but if you guys don't mind, I would like to take the floor for just a second and quote the great Scorpio Sky in saying, Raw was the worst show I've ever seen.
It was really bad. It was really bad, and I'm hoping that we get the feedback from the fam on Instagram, Periscope, Facebook, and YouTube.
Oh.
I try to give them a lot of credit, and especially knowing kind of how they were behind the 8 ball with what happened with Roman, clearly, and the Becky Lynch injury that happened. And I felt like at that point, creative, having to scramble over the last month and a half, did a pretty damn decent job of it. But, man, I got to say, I mean, I hate when they get through these times a year. And really, it's only one pay-per-view in the middle from another major pay-per-view. And this was as bad of a Raw as I have seen in at least the last 10 years. And I equate it to, a lot of our shows here are primarily Philadelphia sports. And we all know how the Eagles absolutely – I actually equate it. When they walked into New Orleans, it was like the finger poke of doom. They just walked in and boop.
They were done.
They laid down for the rest. And I haven't turned an Eagles game off in 10 years. And I turned that game off in the third quarter. And this felt like that. And I don't really get like super high or low watching a wrestling show. Unless there's something really great that happens, I get really high. But I usually don't let it get me too low. I'll even watch the fodder. I'm not one who fast forwards through a lot of it. But, man, like I felt like I watched a 3-hour episode of Main Event. with the exception of Ziggler and Seth Rollins, which, oh, by the way, we've seen 17 or 18 times in the last 4 or 5 months. Still a great match. Different ending than we've seen because, we talked debatable, is the curb stomp banned again or not. Ryan said that he heard that it's actually not true, and Rollins had kind of pushed back on that. But it was rough. Very, very difficult. I mean, you went from a Jinder Mahal segment to No Way Jose, and no disrespect to, some of those guys, but those are the guys that are basically carrying the main event. And then it was Alicia Fox before that. Alicia Fox ran double duty on this show. And then Dana Brooke, who on Starrcade was a face, and now she's a heel again, and it was like with no explanation on it really of anything. I mean, I guess they could say, well, she's with Corbin.
Well, I can say that this past Monday was the first Monday night that I was actually free to watch wrestling since the Raw that we went to back in early October.
Right.
I've been watching Raw very much the way Maddie does via DVR. Mm-hmm. So this Raw I decided to watch live at 8 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And I watched about the first hour and 15 minutes.
Oh, I didn't watch it live, thank God.
And then I started flipping channels. And I would come back to it, but I was going, football for 15, 20 minutes back to Raw. Yeah. Football for 10 minutes back to Raw because I couldn't sit through a full 3-hour episode of that without having the ability to fast forward through some of the absolute garbage that was out there.
Well, you and Ryan, we kind of were sharing some comments as
during the show.
Later in the show as it was going on. And I told you what I was convinced, because the last time I can recall a show being this bad was the People's Choice episode, I think 2010, when the Nexus debuted. And it was that goofy, they had dance parties, and then, it was when they would put the things up and the fans would vote and pick what they wanted to see, and they would pick goofy stipulations and stuff. And I remember watching that episode and being like, this is terrible. Like, I remember it being that vividly bad because of how epic the ending was. Completely saved a completely forgettable show. Like, I can really barely remember anything actually from that show. Remember Kali had some weird thing in that episode, but I was convinced that something had to happen. And kind of knowing with the Braun Strowman thing that's going on, I thought, you know what? We just saw what happened with Starrcade, and I didn't think that it was an accident that they left out the fact that Bray Wyatt returned at Starrcade and basically filled Braun's spot to take on Corbin. So I was convinced, having to do the early beatdown early in the episode, and we knew that was going to be the same fate for Finn Balor. I just kept watching, thinking for sure that we were going to see Bray come back to pull the save for Finn, and essentially it makes sense that he would be the fill-in for Braun. I mean, they were at one time in a faction together, and it's pretty clear that when Bray comes back, he's probably going to have a face run, which I'm actually really excited about, like a legitimate singles face run. I was convinced, and it's the only thing that kept me on. And by the end of the show, I regretted every minute that I wasted. And I usually don't say I waste time watching wrestling. A lot of people may disagree with that, but I never really look at it that way. This was the first time I thought, why do I even watch this shit? And I never think that way. It was terrible.
Well, it's one of those perfect examples of this is what happens when you put all of your eggs in one basket and then that person is now no longer available. This is what happens. You wind up like, shit, plan A is gone. And then your plan B gets hurt because of stupid shit that you wanted to horseshoe into the segment, and now he's out. And well, good job, guys. You single-handedly took out your entire main event roster in less than 2 months. Mm-hmm. And one wasn't your fault. The other one is completely on you.
Yeah.
But here's my question for you guys. With a talent pool as deep as they have, and when I say that, I'm talking about Raw, SmackDown, NXT, all the way down to the Performance Center. If they have some inkling that a show is going to be the drizzling shits, can't they just hotshot a debut out of nowhere?
You would think.
Couldn't they throw, Lars Sullivan out there because they've already been promoting him? Or couldn't they, from out of nowhere have, Velveteen Dream show up or, during the beatdown of Finn Balor at the end, pick a major baby face, pick Aleister Black. Couldn't they just have Aleister Black just debut out of nowhere and run in and save Finn Balor just to save the show?
I mean, I have to say, and the reason I was so convinced that Bray or something was going to happen, I can't recall that I've ever seen an episode that absolutely nothing really came of it, aside from I don't know what they're trying to do with Corbin. I don't like it. I don't find it entertaining.
No.
I mean, he's a nice guy from what I hear. I had a friend that met him last week and said, oh, man, he's like the nicest guy when you meet him. Cool. Great. But
Your
this
character
whole
sucks.
authority figure thing that they're doing with him,
Played out.
it's so played out, Maddie. It's ridiculous. And the fact that he's constantly going in and changing, like they're trying to get heat on him, but it's not the right heat that's happening. It's people don't fucking care about him.
It's X-Pac heat.
It's X-Pac heat. It's terrible.
Oh God! Who actually who showed up at NXT Takeover?
Well, and that's
oddly
because they
enough.
had. I mean, listen, we talked about that. I talked about that that weekend. Clearly, they had nobody else to sit in the crowd, so they're like, somebody call X-Pac and his dog. Let's sit them up in the front row because we have to do that front row crowd spot.
So can either of you guys explain to me any of the logic between the Ronda Rousey, Nia Jax, Tamina, Natty Riot Squad segment at all?
No, it was ridiculous.
It was kind of like, oh, yeah, that's right. Nia and Ronda are facing off at TLC, even though Ronda got her ass beat by Charlotte, so she's just going to mention Charlotte in a promo. Natty's going to come out try and save her. Oh, and by the way, Natty still has heat with the Riot Squad, so we're just going to have them play intercept. It was literally just like that. It was ridiculous.
No.
I think the whole thing made made Ronda look like an idiot.
It made Ronda look like an idiot, and it made no sense because it's out here and she's saying this and this, and then she's like, nah, I'm actually out here to stall for time. And like, did you know that Natty was definitively coming out there and you're stalling, hiding the Riot Squad over here?
Well,
It just was real weird timing and it was a weird response to that question.
What I thought was going to happen, I thought Tamina was going to attack her from behind.
So
and
did
Tamina
I.
didn't
That
do
would have made
anything.
sense at
Yeah.
least.
But-
For Christ's sake.
right, but here's the thing. Let's understand for a second that Ronda Rousey is, for lack of a better term, a professional self-defense artist.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a snowball's chance in hell that in real life she's going to let Tamina walk around behind her and not somehow reposition her body so that she can keep one eye on Tamina and one eye on Nia. So immediately, first disconnect is Tamina's up behind her. And and like you said, Maddie, you're waiting for Tamina to attack her, and she never does. And you just have this stupid yip between Ronda and Nia. And then all of a sudden, like you said, Nia says, I'm stalling for time. Well, were you stalling for time for Tamina to attack or for Natty's music to hit?
Yeah.
And then you have the Riot Squad under the ring?
It was bizarre.
Like,
It was so bizarre.
and if you're Vince McMahon or Triple H or somebody, do you not like rip Liv Morgan, a brand new, complete freaking a-hole, for posting pictures on social media the next day of the Riot Squad hanging out under the ring during the show? I mean, there's kayfabe, there's breaking kayfabe, and then there's forgetting kayfabe exists.
Nah, I don't think that was by accident because their whole gimmick is they do what they want. They're the Riot Squad. So that didn't bother me.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's fair.
I'm sure.
It bothers me that it doesn't bother management.
Or, I mean, listen, that could be something that's directed by management.
That's true too.
To fit the characters.
I think I would have been more uncomfortable if it was somebody that she's supposed to be rivaling against, and she's hanging underneath the ring with them. It's like, aren't you in a rivalry with them? Like, that makes no sense, you know? Because then that's legitimately saying fuck kayfabe completely.
Right. But that means that they were basically hanging out underneath the ring for what, an hour and 40 minutes?
Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah, but I mean, for me,
If not longer.
if they're posting it before or the night of, that's one thing. But it's to me,
To-
it's very
to post it after?
very calculated
Yeah.
to do it the next day.
Uh,
So I didn't really find a big issue with that. But
It's hard to say, though. I think the Twitter poll should have been, is this Raw worse than the mid-'90s Raws when they had all the really shitty gimmicks and they had only Shawn Michaels and a few other guys?
I would have killed for a Val Venus appearance Monday night.
no, that's the late '90s.
No,
He's talking mid-'90s. We're talking.
I would have killed
Damien
for a
Demento.
gobbledygooker appearance.
The Minotaur or the Mantar.
Oh,
God.
Mantar.
Santa Claus.
Little Duke the Dumpster Drosy action popping out. Little Aldo, the
Reno Riggins.
The Reno Riggins. Good
Oh,
Lord.
God, the Goons.
Salvatore Sincere.
Hey, sincerely.
Or what was the other one? Max Moon.
Max Moon.
Probably-
Bastion
oh.
Booger.
Oh. Yeah. No, I'll be honest. At least there was some sensible structure to those Raw. The characters may not have been great, but it built to their pay-per-views. I didn't get it. And again, that's one of the main event segments that does have a meaningful carryover. And it was whoever created that segment and whoever greenlit that segment, they're off their rockers. That was terrible. It made them all look stupid.
I think what really killed them, too, was because whenever they found out Braun Strowman's injury, I think that was the moment they pretty much threw their hands up like, fuck it, we don't know what we're going to do. We're just going to sling shit to the wall and see what fucking sticks at this point.
I mean, Braun's
you may be
promo was
right.
pretty decent. That was, I mean, it was a recorded promo. You got fucking Dean Ambrose getting shots in his ass.
What the hell?
What was that? What was that?
Why on
Like-
earth is Dean Ambrose cutting a promo from his doctor's
And like,
office?
how do I not know that he's like? I mean, listen, when you talk about steroids and stuff in the professional wrestling world, I don't care what it's supposed to be. That sends the wrong message. You got a guy at the doctor's office bent over taking shots in the ass. It was a little awkward to me.
But you know,
Not gonna lie.
You know how they tried to deflect it? They said, "Oh, this one's got to go into your hip." It's like that doesn't look like his hip. You're
Yeah.
putting it in his ass cheek.
Well, I thought there were two of them.
Yeah.
I thought there was one in the hip, and then he went around behind him, and the last one was in the keister.
I didn't get it.
And
I
then
didn't get it.
And then they set Renee up to deflect by just, they feed her the line. I live with the guy, and I don't even know how he
Yeah,
thinks.
let's address that.
Which
'cause
they
we have-
poorly booked that, by the way.
because
Wait, hold on. What do you got, bro?
No, I'm just staying away. Staying out of that.
listen, because of the holiday and all that stuff, we haven't been on the air. Can we talk about that? Because
We can talk about anything you want.
I don't care for the direction, and I know people are critical of Renee Young as a commentator right now. I don't think they're doing her any favors. And we talked about what direction is Renee going to go in.
Mm-hmm.
To me, they should just ignore the fact that she's married to him on the commentary. When you go to her every week and it's like, I live with the guy. I don't know. He's unpredictable. Like, you fucking married a guy and you don't even know who he is half the time?
Exactly.
Like, how stupid does that sound? You're his wife and he won't tell you how he's feeling?
Well, are you not waiting
You're-
Are you not waiting for Graves at some point to just be like, he's your husband?
Oh my God.
What are you doing?
And that's not a knock on her. That's the direction they're taking
Oh,
it
yeah.
with her. So is the plan to ultimately have her go heel commentator to kind of fit his narrative, take her off of that and maybe put her with him? Because it's the only thing that would have made sense to me to have her take this direction, which I hate both. But I hate them both.
But at least I hope that that's the direction you're going. So at least it gives that some kind of legitimacy. And
I
it's
don't
not
think it
just
is.
bullshit. It's still bullshit.
I don't think it is at
altogether,
all.
but
I don't think
still,
it. I don't
you
think it
know.
is at all. They're just going to sit there and leave her high to dry and look like a fucking idiot every week.
Yeah,
Well,
I
what
don't
a
think there's
shocker.
any chance in hell they go storyline with this, because if they're going to put her in this kind of storyline, they would have put her in some kind of storyline years ago. I mean, she's been with the company for years.
That is true.
So, and it goes completely. So I don't know if it was an interview it was an interview she was in like a year ago, and she was talking about how she got into the business. And apparently, like, the company approached her when she got the job about, in the future, just so we know, are you interested in doing anything storyline? And she basically said flat out, like, that's not why I wanted to get into this. I wanted to get into this because it's still sports commentary.
Yeah.
So I don't think she would be happy with it. And she doesn't. I mean, they would make the final call, obviously. But I feel like if whatever direction they're going in, even if to be honest, I don't think they know what they're doing, to be honest. I think they just shoehorn this entire thing and it's a rush job. They're like, oh, Renee, just say this. We'll figure it out.
And I'll say this in a slight defense for them. It is that because of the Roman situation. They absolutely put the accelerator on this whole thing.
Well,
but we're talking weeks in. Like the first week they did it, and it's like, listen, the guy's like off his rocker. It's tough to talk to him at home right now. So I kind of just leave it be for now. You do that 1 or 2 weeks, it's one thing. But it's every week, every segment. They're going back, and she says the same time. He's a different person sometimes. I don't know. It's just so weird. Like I don't get it. It's terrible. Do me a small favor, by the way. Can you bring up the Facebook just because mine? I don't know if it's updating or not.
Gotcha.
I have some of the comments. I'm gonna hit the.
I would have to assume that because the SmackDown women's division is so strong, when they get to Fox, I'm working under the assumption that the SmackDown announce team on Fox will wind up being Graves, Phillips, and Renee. And Byron will probably wind up going to Raw with Michael Cole. And I would imagine it'd probably still be Corey, but
it could be. I mean, for one thing, I think the brand split's gone.
Well,
fair point.
I think it's absolutely gone once you hit Fox.
But
they're not. They're on that's a major network.
There you go, bro.
They are not going to limit. Well, you can read some of them. I just don't know if it's updating because it did this to me the other day. Remember, it stopped updating them. So I got Andy Ritter over on the fam. He's saying it's about damn time. How am I supposed to slack off at work when you're all are late? This guy.
Hey, man.
The champ was here and he was on time.
Traffic was a bizarre.
Dave Keene says, "How can you be watching if you're live? We got to watch to see the fam's comments, brother." Rob Povia says, Becky's the best thing going in WWE. # demand. I 100% agree. Brian Autry, who you guys got tonight, Saints or Cowboys? I got Saints. Saints?
Yeah.
Matty doesn't know.
Saints.
Not as bad as the Eagles got blown out, though. John C. Danzo says, how long will it take to bury Lars Sullivan? It seems like every time WWE brings up an NXT talent, they bury them. From what I'm hearing, they're pressed to push him to the moon. They love Lars Sullivan for some reason.
Well, I mean,
I think he's an interesting talent. I don't know.
He's old school. He's like an old school.
Yeah,
like,
but not only that too. He's a big guy, so it's like that pretty much tells you everything you need to know.
Well,
right
it's the
there,
Vince mold for sure. So. I don't think they're going to bury him though. I think that there will be a big push for this kid. Greg Malakvis says, "What's up, fam?" Yes, Raw's the B show now. They just fill 3 hours worth of trash anymore. Dave Keene says maybe you should take the cowbell for Raw. I don't know what that meant.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Brian
what's
Autry
going on
says,
here, but it's only showing me like the last 5
That's
comments,
okay.
So.
Brian Autry says, right, it will never be like the 90s. That's the best WWF. Andy says, I absolutely think that Raw is the B show now. They have way too much time on their hands and cannot capitalize on it. He said something about SmackDown. I apologize, buddy. My phone's not updating that. John C. Danzo says, we went from Raw is war to Raw is boring. And Brian agreed.
You know what they should have done at the end of Raw? I know that they just got done doing a big storyline end in NXT. Just because they can be unpredictable and they like to shock the system, just have Undisputed Era show up with their belts from NXT. Be like, holy shit. But I'm just throwing it out there. It's like, like Matt said, like, anybody would have been great to bring up as a kind of all right, we got no choice. We have to accelerate this now because this show's so bad.
When they pull the trigger on those kind of guys, there's no going back.
That's true, though. You are right on that.
They have the ready-made guy who is ready to go in Bray Wyatt that people have kind of been clamoring about when is he going to come back. And he did 2 nights before. And it fit the narrative of the main event segment. And the opening segment. And that would have been, I'm telling you, that would have got a huge pop. Did you guys read what the Milwaukee fans put on their Wikipedia page?
No.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Okay.
I thought that was hilarious. But I'll let you go right ahead, man.
this is great. So somebody in Milwaukee, and it's been fixed since then, but went on their Wikipedia page. So I'll just kind of read like a sentence or two before. But it says, the city's estimated population in 2017 was 595,351. Milwaukee is the main culture and economic center of the Milwaukee metropolitan area. It's also the city where wrestling died during an episode of Raw that aired from Milwaukee on 11/26/2018, and then it just goes back into actual facts again. Somebody changed that shit on Wikipedia, which, by the way, is amazing. Whoever did that, you're brilliant. I'm glad that you did that. Oh, it was so funny.
Oh, God. It used to be whenever Vince Russo got hired. But anyway. Oh, God. Yeah, so here's the thing, though. Now that it's a – how long is Braun supposed to be out due to his injury? Is there any timetable that they've given?
I think it all depends on how severe the extent of it was and how complicated the surgery was. I don't know that they've actually announced anything yet.
What I'm going to predict now, because they didn't do it on Raw, that there's going to be they're going to show up almost like the Eric Bischoff when he challenged McMahon thing.
Mm-hmm.
Braun's not going to be at TLC, but Bray Wyatt is. Mm-hmm. And then I think Stephanie McMahon or somebody's going to make that call and say, guess what? You don't get a freebie. You got to earn it. Bray's in. And I have to hope that that's the direction this is going. And unfortunately, we may suffer for the next 2 weeks because they're probably going to continue with this Baron Corbin power trip for the next 2 weeks.
I gotta read this real quick.
Yeah.
This from our boy Rob Brinkman.
What's up, Brink?
That Corey guy blows at commentary. He reminds me of one of those dolls for kids where he has 3 catchphrases. When you press his stomach, switch it up, man. Shut up, Byron. Shut up, Phillips.
You're ruining this.
You're ruining this.
I do really like Corey. But that's a great comment.
But Brinkman is spot on.
Brinkman, that's a great comment.
I actually threw up on Twitter on Tuesday night, actually, during Smackdown. Mm-hmm. I said, when is WWE going to start selling shirts?
I saw this.
That say, you sell them at Raw, and they say, shut up, Byron, and you sell them at SmackDown, and they say, shut up, Phillips. And it's just like his face on the back. And of course, like, as soon as Mandy's music hits. Yeah, exactly. It's almost like Eva Marie all over again, only better.
I kind of think it's the Emelina gimmick they were planning on doing with Emelina.
So
I have a feeling.
So now that they've getting back to the whole Raw thing. So depending upon Braun's injury severity and possible timetable of return, I would have to think the next guy you boom, whether it's not Bray Wyatt or not, I would have to think the moment you take that Intercontinental title off of him, it has to be Seth Rollins now. Because I'm like, okay, who else do you go to? You have nobody else. You can't just throw Finn into a main event spot. You've buried him too much now. So it's like you kind of have no choice. You have to go Seth now. You have to. If Braun's out, but that's the point though. It's like if it's an extended injury for Braun, obviously if the Rumble comes up and you don't have AJ win the Rumble, it has to be Seth Rollins. And then it's got to be Rollins has to beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania at this point. I can't really see them doing anything else.
I mean, that's the rumor. That's the rumor that's out there is Braun and Seth for WrestleMania.
It has to be now.
Brakeman said, I miss heel nerd Michael Cole. And then Jason Lasso, I'm getting some of them updated, so that's good. I missed the first part. I'm assuming Renee Young said she's on the ESPN radar. And Jason Lasso said let ESPN have her. She can't do WWE.
She's been on and off the ESPN radar for years now because she was mainstream when she was in Canada.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Rich Johnson says Lars will not be buried. Gordon Bates says, I can't seem to get interested in Raw, but I'll make the attempt to at least record WWE SmackDown. I'll tell you right now, if you're going to watch a show, it's SmackDown. SmackDown. If you're picking one, SmackDown's the way to go. It's only 2 hours, and every segment seems to matter on SmackDown. Rich says they don't like Bray. I don't know if I agree with that. I just don't think they knew what to do with the character.
They screwed him up.
They backed themselves into a corner with him, and it was kind of a lot of damage done.
I don't think they were very happy with him, though, with the whole
I'm sure not.
JoJo thing and then the
They get over that stuff,
the
though.
divorce and the child support and whatnot.
Yeah.
And you're right, they do get over it, but I do think that they backburnered him for a little while just because of that.
But you just could barely notice that it was a back burner because he was essentially backburnered on everything else.
Although, but here's the thing. Think back, 2.5 months when you had, what was it, Bray and Matt Hardy going for the tag team titles against the B team.
Mm-hmm.
And that total, smart mark moment where Bray's in the ring with Bo Dallas. And people were going nuts over it.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden it's like, B team is basically nowhere to be found, and you have an opportunity to hotshot Bray into a singles push, and they don't pull the trigger on it.
No, and really, this is the time now.
Unless they're waiting for.
It has to be TLC.
It
has to be TLC for me. And you're right, because if you're looking at it now, your main face of Raw right now is Seth Rollins. Clearly, I don't know what the direction is going to be with Finn. Elias is another one who is right now absolutely astronomically through the roof. And it's weird because it's like there's a push for him, but when it comes to actual important pay-per-view storylines, he's not being pushed at all.
Let me ask you guys a question. Aside from Seth, who are the notable baby faces on Raw?
Well, I mean, there's Rhonda, and then there's Finn, and then Elias, yeah, and then after that, that's pretty much it for the most part.
Who's not hurt right now?
Well, that's what I'm saying, is
Yeah.
that there's literally 4 main baby faces on Raw. It's Seth, Elias, Finn Balor, and Rhonda. And when that's all you have to build your show around,
It's tough.
it's a problem.
It reminds.
I mean, even Bobby Roode and Chad Gable, that segment was absolute freaking garbage. It was literally something out of 1996.
That was a Russo booking, in my
Oh
opinion.
yeah.
It reminds me. This is years ago when right after John Cena got hurt. And it was like the Randy Orton feud, and then they put it on Triple H, and that's when Triple H won it and then lost it. I think it was Armageddon. And that's when they brought back Shawn Michaels and then Jericho, and they shoehorned everything because they had literally one babyface on the show that wasn't Triple H. And that's right when they took off with Orton as the main heel. It was that time, and then a few years ago around when Sting debuted, where the main guys were Dolph Ziggler, Ryback, and Eric Rowan.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that,
I'd kill for some Eric Rowan now.
oh yeah, that would be great. A babyface Luke Harper would be great right now. He's not doing anything. Is he hurt? Is Luke Harper hurt, or is he just on the shelf right now, or is he just waiting?
Rowan's hurt. I think Harper's kind of sitting out and waiting right now.
If he wasn't, I know they're going to try and keep this Bludgeon Brothers thing, but I'm thinking to myself, if they're not doing if that doesn't exist, that's a perfect opportunity for Luke Harper to go over there and then do something for a couple months.
You're right, but I think, and I agree with you. I think they're so stuck right now on the idea of keeping them as a tag team, particularly because I will say they are a very good, legitimate tag team together.
Yeah,
their name is stupid, but their team is very good. They're in the best shape of both of their lives right now. I mean, aside from Rowan being hurt now, and I think that they need to have strong tag teams outside of the New Day and the Usos, because I don't know how much longer the bar is going to be around with Sheamus's neck either. Go ahead, Matty.
Well, the thing is, too, you can at least put the Bludgeon Brothers, at least in my opinion, you should put them on Raw. Because that way it's okay, there's a team on Raw. Yeah. But here's the thing, though. If you want to do a Bray Wyatt thing, now is a better time than ever to bring the Wyatt family back.
I don't want the family.
See,
but that's the thing, though. You can have them as baby faces in exchange as them being heels back in the day.
But I don't want the family back. I want Bray to get a singles focus on him run. The only thing I would like is if they figured out somebody to come back and be Abigail as a valet or some kind of a heater with him. I love Rosemary. I say it all the time. Would be the absolute perfect person to come back and be an Abigail character.
Here's the problem, Matty. I mean, the Wyatt family was great, in my opinion, but this is another thing where it's not their fault, it's creative's fault. If they brought them back again, it would be 3 times in 4.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's a problem. The second part, where I do disagree on putting the Bludgeon Brothers on Raw, you can't really do that because while they're different, the Authors of Pain is kind of that destructive, big, bulky
That's a good
team.
point.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
And the other thing, I understand what you're saying, Chrome, on they're so hell-bent on keeping the Bludgeon Brothers together, and I don't know the extent of Eric Rowan's injury. If it's long-term, then that's good for my whole thing, because if it's a long-term injury, and say he's not projected back until after WrestleMania, they could easily have Luke Harper go over to Raw, be involved in storylines up until WrestleMania or until they don't need him anymore, and then literally put him right back. I mean, they've switched Luke Harper's gimmicks 7 times. You know what I mean? And they ignore the fact, like, oh, he was in the Wyatt family. Oh, he's not. They did the same thing with Strowman.
Yeah.
They don't even mention that anymore. So I think if they thought that far ahead, they could make it work, because they've done it with bigger entities before.
Rich said enough with Lesnar. He said agreed they buried the hell out of him. How could he be a main he could have been main event, talking about Bray. John C. Danzo asks, thoughts on WWE killing the Starrcade name after all these years of being right up there with the Survivor Series?
Well, that was weird because that just came right the fuck out of nowhere. You know, they just kind of said, hey, Starrcade's happening. I'm like,
Well, they did it last year, but they did it
They didn't televise
in
it.
Greensboro. It was non-televised. So and they brought in a lot of like the Carolinas legends. And they did a lot of like in-ring like interview segments, and last year was basically a tribute to Starrcade.
Yeah.
And this year they just basically killed it.
It was a televised house show.
Yeah, more or less. And you didn't even get the whole thing.
No, yeah, because the best part they didn't even put in there.
Which part was that?
You know, when Bray Wyatt
yeah.
showed up.
Again, I don't think that that's by accident.
No.
I still think that in the near future he's coming. I have to believe that, because that would make no sense not to show that part on there. I mean, I watched the hour special. It was okay. I didn't mind it. I thought it was kind of corny with some of the stuff they did on it. And, I mean, they did constantly harp back to facts about Starrcade, which I did appreciate, and kind of make sure to name drop a lot of the legends of the events of Starrcade. So I was cool with that. I mean, there's never an intent to bring it back as a pay-per-view. I think they bring it back as a nostalgic event, not a pay-per-view, not a special. Well, they cut a little part of it as a special. But I think it was very clear to me that it was more just kind of giving like the nostalgic, the facts about the Starrcade and everything like that. I thought the Joe AJ match was pretty decent, the cage match. It was what it was. I mean, it's been killed for a long time, guys. Let's be real. I mean, it's been dead. If anything, they're just giving a little nod to it and not totally just letting it die off in the past.
well, at least they didn't try to resurrect it like they did the Great American Bash, like for the couple years.
I thought that was a fine pay-per-view, though, when they ran it. I mean, it wasn't that bad. I mean, there's other events. I would like to see them bring Halloween Havoc back. I think it's the most sensible one for that time. I've heard people say Bash at the Beach, like they'll never do a free event on the beach like when they did Road Wild and Bash at the Beach. They did that shit for free. People
I was
didn't
just
pay
going to
to
say,
go
though,
to that.
I think this is like the second time in the last 2 shows that I've been here that we've had a Halloween Havoc mention.
Oh, well,
I love it.
I love Halloween Havoc.
I love Halloween Havoc. That's the best.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not. You have to go in understanding it's not going to be the Starrcade. It's not Sting versus Hogan, or
It's not a Flair for the gold.
It's not Flair for the gold, right? Exactly. It is what it is.
Starrcade 85, a Flair for the gold.
And listen, if you go back and watch some of them early Starrcades, they weren't exactly the most wonderful things to watch, aside from like
The main event, right.
anyway. Some of them were pretty rough to get through.
I mean, the best one, I think, hard to say. I'm going to say 97 with Sting beating Hogan. You know, bullshit finish and all, but still.
I mean, I guess aside from the first couple years with the main events they had, that was definitely the peak. I mean, they did have Sting and Flair back in the 80s. It was really good.
Yeah, the opening contest is number 1 Paul Jones against the world junior heavyweight champion Denny Brown. And Denny Brown would do the job, but the belt wouldn't change hands because Paul Jones was a heavyweight.
There it is.
That's old school NWA right there.
Yeah, so it is what it is. I mean, I don't think they killed it. I didn't expect much from it. I did expect to see Bray, which is annoying.
But see
they
now,
didn't kill it for
but
me.
here's the thing: for as bad as Raw was, like SmackDown is just incredible,
Yeah.
and that 2 hours flies
I mean,
by.
listen, move over to SmackDown. I mean, obviously you had the opening segment. Now clearly they're starting to get they're having the Becky is clearly now repositioning to a face, but the anti-hero face.
Mm-hmm.
She's still keeping that. Charlotte is transitioning into a different, I think, going to end up being the heel, the different kind of heel again,
Mm-hmm.
which, listen, if this is the aggressive Charlotte that we're going to see, it's a different heel than what she was before. I really like it. I'd like to see this out and play out.
Can you address the screenshots that you and I saw the other day, or last week actually,
Which one were that?
with
remind me.
Baszler and Tessa Blanchard?
Oh, yeah. I got
Brian,
all that stuff
did you see?
saved.
I saw that.
Maddie, did you catch
No.
that? So this is great. Chrome and I, we kind of both caught it right around the same time, but Shayna Baszler started feeding the Becky Lynch fire. And Charlotte saw it and kind of jumped in on the discussion.
Yeah.
And there was a back and forth between Charlotte and Shayna Baszler.
Mm-hmm.
And Charlotte basically told Shayna Baszler,
I have the exact.
go ahead,
tweets right here.
read it off, yeah.
So Shayna Baszler tweets out, the OG Four Horsemen horsemen weren't just simply four wrestlers that made history. They were friends, a real team like us, the actual team here, actual in capitals. Those others, sure, they made history, but they've never been a team. They're barely friends half the time. Hashtag 4HW, hashtag 4Horsewomen. Charlotte responds, oh, please do tell me about the original Horsemen. Maybe at Tessa Blanchard would want to hear too. Tessa says, diamonds are forever, hashtag birthright. Go teach these broads some respect, sis. And then Charlotte posted the picture of her crushing Ronda with the chair. And it says missing from photo, and then she tagged the other three horsewomen in.
Yeah, and
It
then
was
there's some more back and forth between Shayna and Charlotte, and Tessa drops a few things in there, and then it looks like Becky is just kind of watching the exchange from afar, and then starts dropping tweets of her own out there, not responding or retweeting, but putting tweets of her own out there that are referencing the discussion, like in little drips and, sprinkles and whatever. Like they are absolutely planting seeds.
Shayna Baszler, in response to the Becky Lynch, when Becky had tweeted Ronda and basically said, "Did Shayna help you write this tweet?" or something like that. Shayna had tweeted Becky Lynch and said, "Don't try to drop me in this attention grab. I'm too busy holding down the division. You couldn't." Hashtag Shayna 2-time. Becky responds, the only thing that bonds you, Ronnie, and I want to say, Mary and Jessica, is you all ran from another sport that beat you. So make no mistake, if I chose to drop anything, it will be you, not your name. By the way, give my best to your leader and her hurty mouth. I'm stronger every day. Is she? ?
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Becky's fucking amazing. I love it. I'm sorry. But
I just wish her promo game when there's other people in the ring with her was as strong as her Twitter game, because Charlotte made her look kind of silly Tuesday night.
Well, I think it was more about making her. I thought that Becky still looked really strong. I mean, clearly they're the two best.
Oh yeah.
So obviously we have all the women of the division come out. Mandy Rose comes out and says, "Hey, everybody else deserves an opportunity." So you had all the heel women come out, and then you had all the face women come out, and Naomi and the Glow. All the Glow came out.
Yeah.
So they set up a battle royal, which was what ended the show.
Mm-hmm.
And in the conclusion of the show, clearly Asuka, and I enjoyed the exchanges between her and Sonya Deville.
I was going to say, I actually thought the ending
was very creative. It's different than what we've seen mostly,
and way better than the Women's Royal Rumble.
I agree.
Way better.
It was the Women's Royal Rumble was a little bit anticlimactic at the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
This,
You mean because there was a Bella involved?
well, not just that, but this had a very kind of like tit for tat, back and forth, similar style feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
And they worked really well on the ring apron as well. I really enjoyed this. We all knew Asuka was probably going to win. I thought that having Sonya Deville as the second person finishing there, kind of dating back to with, the subtle reference from Mandy that, Sonya's getting opportunities. I don't think that's an accident. WWE is definitely starting to focus on that real backgrounded fighter MMA style. And I really like Sonya. I think she's come a long way. So I enjoyed the end of this. And I think that it's the logical person to win. And if you're going to have the triple threat, and again, they make sure to emphasize the first ever women's TLC match, these are the three women to kind of ride it out. Now, my concern is that Asuka's going to end up winning this so they can get the belt off of Becky and then go forward with the horsewomen thing. And I don't think I'm ready for that yet. I don't think I'm ready for the belt to come off of Becky.
So I'm going to disagree with you. I could see a finish where you have, say, Charlotte and Asuka fighting on a ladder, and they both take a pretty nasty fall off the ladder, and Becky goes and covers one of them, and 1, 2, and a kick out. So then she goes over and covers the other one, and you get the 1, 2, 3, while the other one is struggling to try to break up the pinfall. Or they all three of them go through a table and none of them can continue and the match winds up becoming like a, basically a no contest. I don't think they want to take the belt off of Becky. Because if they did, they could have just had her forfeit when she had the concussion.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. I still think I'm still waiting to see how this Miz Shane McMahon thing carries out because I don't think they've written off Shane McMahon turning heel.
The only thing I can...
And then taking the belt off of her?
Taking the belt off of her. I mean, you'll get some damn heat if you do that.
The only thing I can think of that would make what you said incorrect, because I agree with you. If they're gonna take the belt off of her, why not have her forfeit it? The only reason why I could see them not doing that is because they didn't want their two major belts being changed in the same night, because that's the same night that D. Bryan beat Styles. And I feel like if they would have taken the belt off of Becky and then have the base, I mean, it was a shocking title change. It would have kind of drowned out the, Becky Lynch dropping the title sort of a thing.
Did you say a pinfall?
Oh, with what?
In your scenario?
No, forfeiting. Is that
No. When you were talking about TLC?
Yeah, it's not a ladder. They're not hanging the belt. It's just a TLC match.
I think they're hanging the belt, bud.
So even if
because all TLC matches, I don't know. They haven't clarified that. Usually, if it's a title match, they hang the belts, though.
Okay, so let's say that Charlotte.
That's interesting. I guess we'll have to get clarification.
Yeah,
but usually, every TLC that's had a title belt or a title match, the belt's been hung up.
So let's say that Charlotte and Asuka are fighting on the ladder, and Becky just tips the ladder over, and they both basically just fall out of the ring.
Yeah.
And then she just goes up the ladder and gets the belt.
Yeah.
I mean, any scenario will do.
Right. That makes sense. No. I got you. Rich Johnson over here says AOP sucks ass. Andy agreed with not bringing Wyatt back unless you're going to bring back the Wyatt family. But if you bring back an Abigail, that would work. Rich says Luke Harper's so damn good. Wasted talent. John C. Danzo. Matt Hardy's rumored to be coming back. Could he be pushed to a main event spot? I don't think so at this point.
I thought he was going strictly production behind the scenes.
I thought so. I think it's a transition, but I've heard that he may come back. Maybe it'll be a part-time role.
I would love it if he and his creative mind suddenly got behind Raw because
they could use
sounds like they could certainly use it.
David Rosca says bring back King of the Ring pay-per-view. They've tried it.
I wouldn't hate it.
They've tried it, and it's been terrible.
Well,
I don't need it.
It was that Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
thing.
by the way, they did just have the
the
King of the Ring pay-per-view. It was called Crown Jewel.
Yeah.
Shane McMahon won. And he also says, what's up, guys? John C. Danza says, bring back Battle Bowl. That would draw a lot of interest.
Bowl.
Wow. I would love to see them bring Battle Bowl back. The one thing, though, I think we've touched on this before, if there was anything, any gimmick, any pay-per-view that I wanted them to bring back out of a WCW creative was War Games. And they did that, and I wanted it on the main roster, but I'm enjoying that they're making it an NXT exclusive thing to this point. I hope it kind of stays that way.
You know what pay-per-view that they used to do, which I hate, which I'm actually surprised they haven't tried to bring back? Cyber Sunday.
Oh, God, that was the worst.
But my point is, with everything being social media now, even I guess people figured like, oh wait, it wasn't social media really wasn't part of it anyway. Like it was kind of already planned. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I don't need to see Cyber Sunday ever again.
Awful.
Rosca says put SmackDown live on Monday nights. Yeah, that's never going to happen, buddy.
Monday night.
Rick
SmackDown.
Johnson says history will be Chrome versus Hardcore Dick Johnson. That's his wrestling character that we did a wrestling thing together. So whenever you're ready, buddy. Whenever you're ready.
What if they brought back the Raw Bowl?
Oh, God, the Raw Bowl.
Remind me of the Raw Bowl, what that was. I don't even remember that. I can't watch in silence here. That looks terrible.
Basically,
whatever it is, it looks awful.
Back in the.
But look
I don't even
at the
remember
ring.
that.
Look at the ring.
Yeah.
So
So right now
was-
we're looking at the Smoking Guns coming out with their tag. The Smoking Guns, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes.
With
So this is
looks like-
1996.
Looks like shitty makeshift football jerseys. Running into a ring with lights.
And
that
it
are-
actually.
the ring canvas has yard markers on it.
This is.
Might as well bring
and the
back the
ref is
electric
dressed
chair.
and the ref is dressed like a NFL official.
Look, there's cheerleaders. So, little known fact about this one: Yoko and Owen Hart.
I don't remember this at all, and I remember almost everything from wrestling.
So this was broadcast on January 1st, 1996, and it was
Okay.
going up against bowl games. So they
Okay.
went with the Raw Bowl gimmick. It was taped the third week of December at the Bob Carpenter Center in Newark, Delaware. And if you can actually get a hold of the show from the very beginning, I have a massive, close-up outside of the building, at least 5 seconds.
You were at that?
I was at it, yeah.
Poor you. Yikes.
It was actually my senior.
Look, we got Razor Ramon and Savio Vega.
It was my senior year at Westchester. We drove down there like that.
That seems terrible, Mike.
And
I'm so sorry.
and it was
for
crazy
you.
because they taped probably 5 episodes of Raw that night.
Funny thing is, I'm saying it sounds terrible. I'll probably go back and try to find the broadcast of it just so I can watch it and know what I'm talking about. Rick Johnson says Becky can make the belt entertaining again. He says, still breaks my heart that AJ lost. And he says, this is from he gives us a description of the TLC match. And it says the goal is to acquire the item. Like the official description is to acquire the item at the top of the ladder. That's the basic gist of it. Mike Ray says Goldberg.
Mike Ray, yes.
He says they've only had 5 TLC matches that have not had the title defended in them. Thank you for that fact, Andy.
Awesome.
Rosca says bring back Great American Bash. I'd be okay if they bought that one back. Dave Keene says they need to do Starrcade the way WCW did it when it was still NWA. It worked in the 80s, though. It wouldn't work now. I mean, we've seen them do anything even similar to a house show they did the thing with Big Show and Lesnar, and people complained about it. I mean, that's essentially, if you want to do it the way the 80s was, that's what it was. It was a dark ring. It was you couldn't really see the audience, and it was a low production value show. You're just not going to get it. And if you're looking at the quality of the card, it was the main event and then filler for the majority of the card. I just don't think it will work now. Michael Jenkinson says bring back the triple cage match. Now, are we talking about that triple cage match at Uncensored with Hulk Hogan and
Oh no, is that
one? Was it Hogan and Savage
God, and all the
versus going through the Dungeon of Doom? Which, by the way, was not great, but it's for some weird reason, it's one of my favorite pay-per-views when I was a kid, for 2 reasons. A, the street fight in it was actually really pretty good, and that was
that between?
the Legion of Doom, and I want to say the Harlem Heat.
Okay, then that would make sense
It was a pretty good match.
And I think the U.S. title had a good match. It was Eddie Guerrero versus Conan.
Yeah. Yes, and it was yeah.
I'll ask you guys a question. Which match, and I know neither are likely to come back, which one's more likely to come back, the Inferno match or the Buried Alive match?
Probably the
Buried Alive match.
because the Inferno match, I don't think they would want to run that on a PG
Yeah, I don't think
program.
they're
But
gonna
the
have
reason
the
why I
fire.
compare the two, wouldn't they only bring back Buried Alive if it's the Undertaker?
They did it with. They could do it with Kane, I guess. I don't think.
Well,
they'll ever
but my
do it.
point is they're both. I mean, one's the mayor or the governor.
Well,
You
the
know
only
what I mean?
person that
The only person they did it with was Kane, the Inferno match, though. Because he
No,
always was
that's my
covered.
point.
I don't think
So-
they'll bring either of them back ever.
Because I was thinking maybe they can switch it into there's another guy. That's my point. That neither of them are probably going to come back.
Well, the only person who could legitimately do a Buried Alive match would probably be Bray Wyatt, and it would have to work and fit the context
Maybe
of the
Alistair.
story.
So what was the
Maybe Alistair. That's it.
Wow.
That's the only two that you could think of, honestly.
So he says that's not the match. Sorry, is he talking about the triple cage match with Russo from WCW? That's the only other.
Oh,
What was the
no.
one with the electric
that was
chair?
from 2000 in the Slamboree when David Arquette was champ,
Yeah,
and he
it's-
turned his back on him and helped Jarrett win the
Yeah.
WCW title for the 50th time. Back when Russo was, when he was
Was
slowly
it Tower
killed.
of
Tower of Doom, I
Tower
think
of
it was
Doom?
called.
I think
Yeah,
it's called.
something like
yeah.
that.
And I think it was to promote a movie. It was to promote Ready
to
Rumble.
Rumble, yeah.
That's the whole reason why
Which
it
right
even
now is
happened.
discounted on iTunes if you want to buy it for $7.99.
Oh, good.
I saw it today when I was
Nice.
looking at discount movies on iTunes.
It's still probably way too much money,
John
whatever it's
Danzo
worth.
asks, I know this probably won't happen since they brought back ECW. Thoughts on doing a WCW tribute? Tribute is in like another brand, or a tribute is in just
Like a one-night stand.
like a one-night
thing?
stand kind of
Well,
deal?
I don't think that would work.
I just don't think there's enough guys that were meaningful enough in WCW that you could do it. It worked 13 years ago. The guys were still young enough to work pretty well, even the older guys. In 2018, I don't even think even the job. I mean, Shane Helms was a young guy when they shut it down, and he's like, for all intents and purposes, he's a part-timer. I mean, you still got Ray and guys like that, but
And the best WCW guys, at least at the end of their run, were still young enough to where they came over to WWE and now are considered WWE guys.
Yeah.
and then
Like
also
Booker T, for example.
Booker T. Well, Booker T, I don't think he officially retired. I don't know if he would ever get back in the ring though for that. But also Eddie Guerrero's dead, so it's like there's a lot of guys too that are passed
he really?
away. Yeah, I guess.
yeah.
But that's the point. It's just like all the things considered, like it'd be impossible
It was
to do.
great,
you know?
Matty. You're just like, yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Michael Jenkinson did verify he was talking about that triple cage that we were talking
Okay.
about the second round. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that would work.
And-
Gonna put a cage on top of a cage.
The reason they'll never
on top of a cage.
they'll never bring anything Russo back. That was a clear Russo thing.
You know why they wouldn't do that? Because Shane McMahon would want to take a bump off the top of the third cage.
Dad, you need me to jump off of this? Okay, cool.
As long as there's a crash pad under the table.
yeah, but in
it's fine.
fairness though, like with the height of the Hell in a Cell now, I think that's higher than what that triple cage was.
It's probably pretty close.
Yeah. Dave Keene says bring back Widowmaker. Michael Jenkinson, yeah, he said they did one on Nitro 2 and Nash won that one. And he said it was 9 guys that were involved. Yeah, I
Okay.
mean,
just to here's a little tidbit for you though. At that TV taping in 1995, where they taped the Raw Bowl, there was also
still in this fucking role.
oh hold on. There was also an episode of Raw taped that night, which was the debut, managed by the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, of the $1 Million champion, the Ringmaster, who would later go on to be known as one Mr. Stone Cold Steve Austin.
No, and it's so crazy that you mentioned that $1 Million champion because it's so funny because I almost feel like by winning this created title
What?
What?
from
What?
one of our counterparts,
What?
I'm almost like the Virgil of this station. Give me that fuck money. Let's go.
What?
What?
Fuck money. I think we're going to take our break on that.
What?
What? We're going to take our break on that. Maddie, give us a read.
All right, then.
Give the champ a read.
So, this first portion of Lazy Booking was brought to you by Scanzano Sports Center, located in 5 Carnegie Plaza in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. You can call it 856-889-3434 or visit them on the web at www.scanzanosports.com. www.lazybookingwrestling.com.
Guys, second half of the show will be over exclusively on YouTube. If you join us on Instagram, Periscope, and Facebook, we appreciate it. Please click the link at the top of the page. We'll drop it in the comments section. All you guys on Facebook are killing it. We would appreciate it if you guys joined us over on YouTube. Let's continue the conversation. We're going to talk about who can replace Roman Reigns as the top person in the company. Guy, girl, whatever. We're going to give 5. We're all going to list 5 people and why we think that could be. We'll try to talk about some other news points and, of course, this day in wrestling. Until then, the champ and the crew, we're going to take a brief break. We'll be right back.
What?
Tom and Mike, AM in the PM, is brought to you by Gibson Mayer, LLC, certified public accountants. Gibson Mayer, located in Yardley, PA, is a leading accounting and business consulting firm with a proven track record of handling critical issues with expertise across many different industries, including construction, distribution, hospitality, manufacturing, real estate, service trades, merchandising, professional services, and professional athletes. Give them a call at 215-369-3300. That's 215-369-3300. Your initial consultation is always free, and if you tell them that Mike from Tom and Mike AM in the PM sent you, you'll receive 15% off all income tax services completed by February 15th. That's Gibson Mayer, LLC, certified public accountants. 215-369-3300. Or visit them on the web at www.gibsonmayer.com. That's www.gibsonmayer.com. Tom and Mike, AM in the PM, is brought to you by Gibson Mayer, LLC, certified public accountants. Gibson Mayer, located in Yardley, PA, is a leading accounting and business consulting firm with a proven track record of handling critical issues with expertise across many different industries, including construction, distribution, hospitality, manufacturing, real estate, service trades, merchandising, professional services, and professional athletes. Give them a call at 215-369-3300. That's 215-369-3300. Your initial consultation is always free, and if you tell them that Mike from Tom and Mike AM in the PM sent you, you'll receive 15% off all income tax services completed by February 15th. That's Gibson Mayer, LLC, certified public accountants. 215-369-3300. Or visit them on the web at www.gibsonmayer.com. That's www.gibsonmayer.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Lazy Booking right here on A2DRadio.com. Brought to you by Sports Outlet for all your sporting needs, located at 703 Black Horse Pike in Glendora, New Jersey. You can call 856-939-2030. Email them at sportsoutletnj@comcast.net or visit them on the web at www.sportsoutletinc.com.
No bumps tonight.
No, unfortunately.
Maddie's working soft.
Well, I mean, after what's been going on this week for the Flyers, yeah, I think it's understandable.
It took a bad bump earlier in the week.
So I'll talk about that later.
The energy's not there, yeah.
Yeah.
You'll hear Maddie go off on that at the top of the hour. Well, we are at the top of the hour. At the 10 o'clock hour.
At the top of the next hour.
Top of the 10 o'clock hour.
That will be
with the fellas for hockey happy hour.
That will be appointment radio tonight too.
Yeah, listen, there's going to be a lot for these guys to talk about, and we've kind of touched on in some of our other shows here on A2D this week. But a lot of us, we pretty much defer to these guys and told you guys earlier you got to tune in if you're getting to your hockey talk because it's going to be a lot going down tonight.
Maybe not necessarily talking, more yelling, but we'll see.
And that's cool. Hey,
Nothing wrong with that.
welcome back to Lazy Booking from the Real Talk Studios. You got the champ. You got Matty Sinsuti, the Ginger Gang. Boom. Mike Mataraki joining us again.
Boom.
Boom. And Ryan Brodo over on the ones and twos. We're back, guys. We were talking about Raw, SmackDown. Is Raw the B show at this point? This is the first time that I'll ever say that I do think that right now Raw is the B show because I always just kind of felt like no matter what, no matter how good SmackDown was, the force or the truck was always behind Raw. They always emphasized pretty much that Raw was the main show, but I don't think it's a surprise either, knowing that Fox is right around the corner.
That's what I was just going to ask you
That-
guys. Like, do you think now that we are less than a year from the debut on Fox that they're trying to move the pendulum towards SmackDown?
I don't know that they're totally moving the pendulum towards SmackDown, but they're going to make it a lot more of an even playing field, I think, at this point, which is why I believe that the brand split's going to go, because when you start hitting network television on a weekly basis and like a major network, you know, we're not talking UPN and Sci-Fi. We're talking a major network at Fox. You don't want to limit your roster and your talent that you can put on a show. So I truly believe that they are going to end the brand split.
Oddly enough, though, I think this is the first time Fox is covering wrestling. I think it had TNA for a short period of time. I think it had Fox Sports Net. I think this has been the first time in quite some time that Fox is actually going to be carrying any kind of wrestling.
Yeah. It's gonna be a very big win for WWE, I think, in the end.
I think not only is it a financial win for WWE, but if you look at the way WWE's operation is structured, right now you have the crew from Raw working house show Friday night, house show Saturday night, house show Sunday, Raw Monday. You then have the SmackDown crew working house show Saturday, house show Sunday, house show Monday against Raw, and then SmackDown on Tuesday. Well, if the brand split goes away, you can have the entire roster basically work house, 2 or maybe even 3 different house shows. I'm sorry, they're going to work SmackDown Live Friday night. But then you could have them work 2 or 3 house shows on Saturday and Sunday before they all come back together for Raw on Monday, and then they get to go home Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So from an actual operational standpoint, it's got to be a win for all of the wrestlers, the crew, the engineers, the travel, the lighting people, the camera people, like the whole deal. Unless they get greedy and decide that they're going to still have some staggering of the roster and talent and start running house shows on Thursday nights or Tuesday nights.
WWE and greedy?
Imagine that.
Does that go together? What? Over on the YouTube, some comments dropped in. Povia said Becky Lynch is the best thing going. David Roscoe, what's up, boys? I'm here on YouTube. What year should WCW's brand debut in WWE? Never. Sorry, buddy. It's not happening. He says Manny freaking Rose is a hot baby. She's my woman. Good for you, man. You can score that. He asked if we saw Creed 2. I haven't gotten a chance to see it yet.
I got it on tap for this weekend.
Yeah, I'm going to be away this weekend. I'd like to try to see it maybe next week. It's going to depend, but I'm hearing really great things about it. You see it yet, Matty?
No, not yet. I'll see it at some point.
All right. John Danzo, is there any chance at all that WWE brings in Jim Cornette to help boost ratings?
No.
I don't.
No, because Jim will get pissed off at somebody, and they're gonna get pissed off at him.
It was a huge milestone bringing him in for the Hall of Fame.
Well, it's because he wasn't gonna be able to do anything to anybody, so it's like I highly doubt that's gonna happen.
Although I will say this, if Billy Corgan does start moving forward with the NWA as a brand or as a company as opposed to just a brand, I could see Cornette definitely getting
Yeah.
more play in the NWA.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think at this point, with the little contributions that Cornette has done now with WWE, and I believe will kind of trickle in and do going forward, that's about as much Jim Cornette as you're going to get.
I wonder if he would have any ties to, call it, for lack of a better term right now, All Elite Wrestling, as that seems to be what the trademark was implying.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be something to keep an eye on.
I just don't, because I know he still gets along with JR, and him and Jericho are fine. But if Cody and the Bucks are actually investors in this company, I know he's got a lot of heat with all three of them. So
yeah,
who knows?
And it also depends too if you're going to start booking Aries as well, because he doesn't like Aries either. So.
Andy says he loves Cornette, but he doesn't know why they would bring him in. Fox reportedly wants Ronda on SmackDown before the move. That's not a shocker whatsoever.
Not a shock at all.
Particularly with the MMA background and the UFC ties that they've had over the years, they know the money ticket that Ronda is. And I mean, listen, on their network specials, she was too big of a name. If they can finally get that name on their programming, huge win for them.
Oh yeah.
Frank says, here's my list of replacements of the next top guys, according to Vince McMahon. The Gobbledygooker, the ECW Zombie, the reanimated corpse of Nelson Frazier as Mabel, Gritty, and Tito Santana.
One glaring omission.
Who's that?
No Abe Knuckleball Schwartz?
No
That's a good
Knuckleball Schwartz.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
I think that's where he threw Tito in it.
Okay.
Schmucks.
only just to get to you.
He says, hashtag Gritty for Universal Champion. I'd be down for that.
I'd be
right
down
now.
for Gritty as Universal Champ.
John Danza says, do you think WWE will back up the Brinks trucks to bring in Kenny Omega, the Bucks, Cody, Hangman, and Marty Scurll next before the Fox debut?
Well, what's to say they're not trying that now, you know? I mean.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're going to have to see how this whole potential company plays out.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be huge because I think that's going to be a game changer if that does happen. And I don't think it's a coincidence that, you know, when all these rumors are picking up and the steam's picking up and Omega starts taking his foot off of the brake of the WWE rumors and not just to feed his own thing, there seemed to be more of a realistic possibility. Now you're starting to hear that the steam's picking up on this other thing. So it's definitely going to be something to keep an eye on. Would they back the Brinks truck up for Omega? I think absolutely. Probably for the Bucks. I do think that they covet the Bucks. Maybe Hangman. I love Marty. I don't know how much they would throw at Marty, but I'm a big.
I love Marty
I love
too,
Marty.
but Marty's one of my favorite wrestlers right now. But I think the problem is that because he's so small, they may just consider him immediately cruiserweight, and that's it. They may not think of him anything more than that.
I'll tell you what, though, if they really, really wanted to launch, for lack of a better term, or relaunch 205 Live, you bring in Skrull, Will Ospreay, and you bring Ricochet up, and you have the three of them as the three main guys on 205 Live, and you have 205 Live run on FS1 instead of the network.
Yeah, and with some of the guys they have now, with Buddy Murphy and some of those guys that they have now, man, that would be a pretty deep roster.
Yeah, it would.
And the high quality. That would be a 205 Live show that I would watch.
No question.
And I don't watch 205 Live.
And it's funny because I actually had the, you know, when our buddies Jackson Ritz,
shout out, boys,
had their show on Monday, and they were talking about the Monday after Survivor Series, and they were talking about, you know, which was the best match on the Survivor Series card. Andy and I had a little bit of back and forth about why the 205 Live match basically got no love when it was, in terms of the in-ring action, probably the best match on the show.
It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everyone sat on their hands until the last 3 minutes of the match, and then the obligatory "This is awesome" chant started.
Yeah. No, I lost track of myself for a minute there. Sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sorry. The belt shined in my eyes there, and I lost focus for a minute. I want to make sure we have time because we're only going to 9:30 tonight. I want to dive into top 5. I know Ryan's been chomping at the bit to get it going. So, Ryan, give me what you got. I know you got your top 5. Throw it at me.
Well, I actually want to hear. So, are we all going to do a top 5? Is that kind of what we're doing? Because I want to hear where you guys go. Because I went a little different direction.
Sure.
Because I think what you guys are going, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the most likely top 5, people in the company going forward for the next, 5 years, say for example. I did 2. I did most likely, and I did who should. So if you want, I can give you both of them, and then you can go from there. Or if you want to give yours first, it's strictly up to you guys.
Let's give us your more cowbells.
Yeah.
So here's who I have as far as most likely.
Okay.
And it's not in any particular order, but
Yeah.
the big 5, I think, for the next 5 years is going to be Braun, Ronda, Rollins, McIntyre, and Styles. The only reason why I don't think Styles is going to be the number 1 is because he's going to be shifting, at least reportedly, into a Randy Orton-like contract. So he's not going to be full-time, so it's going to be hard for him. While he's deserving of it, I don't think he's ever going to be that number 1 guy because someone with that schedule can't be the number 1 guy all the time.
Can we, with AJ Styles, would we all agree that even just with his small sample size of what he's done in WWE alone, he's already built out and carved out a Hall of Fame career
Absolutely.
in WWE?
Yes.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I like that list, by the way, Ryan.
The only thing I would change about that particular list is if you are going to consider AJ as a part-timer, I would actually take him off the list and put Charlotte on there in his place.
See, that's what I was thinking. I was actually going to put, instead of Charlotte, I was going to, you know what? I was going to say either her or Becky, but Becky's kind of more like who should be, but likely Charlotte because obviously it's Charlotte.
And actually, if you wanted to, because we don't know what Ronda's longevity is going to be, you could have Ronda as sort of like your 5A maybe, and have Becky in that spot. I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, great names.
This is who I believe should be, and it's completely different.
Okay.
And it's a shame. It was very hard keeping it at 5, so I'm going to do like a 5A for one of them because I want to have 2 women in here. So my top 5, and this is in order, is 5 being Aleister Black. And tell me if you see a theme with these. 5 is Aleister Black. 4 is Ricochet. 3 is Braun. 2 is Ronda. And 1 is Samoa Joe. I believe Samoa Joe should be, even though he is getting up there in age, he should be the top guy because he can do everything. He can speak. He can be both heel and babyface because we saw him be a great babyface back in the days in TNA. He could be sympathetical. He could be absolutely terrifying. He can do whatever you want. He can make appearances, all that stuff. So I believe he should be the clear number 1.
And he's an Eagles fan.
Well, that too. And my 5A, and it's a woman, it's Becky.
Okay.
So that's who. And my theme with this is that each one of them does everything a little bit different. You have Samoa Joe, your top guy, Ronda, who is the big star female, Braun, the giant, Ricochet, the smaller high flyer, and Aleister Black, the terrifying character that can go either way.
I don't hate your list at all. And I appreciate that you threw in NXT talent because you're talking next 5 years, who you're going to start hanging your hat on. You got to look at these people. What do you got? Or what do you got?
Okay.
Who's
so
ready?
My number.
Who's ready? Who's ready?
I'll go.
Who's ready?
So my number 5 is the man that I call the next Shawn Michaels, and that's Adam Cole.
Okay.
Bye-bye. My number 4 is Aleister Black.
Okay.
My number 3 is Charlotte. My number 2, Tommaso Ciampa.
Mm-hmm. He's on my list.
And then my number 1, which will come as absolutely no surprise to you, who has received the endorsement of one Mr. John Cena, would be the Velveteen Dream.
I'm going to disagree with the Velveteen Dream.
I know you hate him,
No, I'm
But-
going to disagree because I don't think as he is going to translate as well on the main roster.
And that's fine. I do
That's
think
my knock. I love his in-ring work.
I think
and
the
I love the
character
character.
I think the character will have to evolve.
Sure.
But I mean, if we're talking the next 5 years, he's so young.
He
I mean,
is very young.
He's what, 21, 22 years
Something
old?
like that, yeah.
I mean, and to be at the level where he's at right now, at that age, I mean, just strap the rocket ship to that kid's back and see how high it can go.
As is, I would take him off of that list. But
And
I
that's
don't
fine.
hate it. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, back when he was on Tough Enough, the talent was there. He was the only one that really had true wrestling background at such a young age at that point. So you think about that now, and you're like, man, this kid's been around a lot longer than people realize,
Right.
too. Or at least learning the ropes the right way. So, no, I don't hate it at all. Maddie?
All right. So no particular order for mine. 1, Seth Rollins.
Okay.
2 will be Aleister Black.
Mm-hmm.
3, Adam Cole. 4 is Charlotte. And what is this? 3, like the next 3 and 5 years? Are we talking here?
Yeah,
Next
whatever
5
time period you
years,
want to
yes.
do.
All right, and Ronda.
Okay.
I mean, it's debatable though with Ronda because we don't know how long she wants to stay in WWE.
I'm
and
going to give her 3 years.
If not, then you sub her out for Braun, and then that's pretty much where you go from there.
Okay. See, I don't know that Braun's going to be in that. I know he's such a big guy, and he's got. It seems like he's being pushed to the moon, but he's not. Like there's definitely something that's holding back on the Braun push right now, and I don't know what it is.
I mean, unless you believe in these stories that you're hearing that backstage he's becoming a bit of an egomaniac and they don't know how serious he's taking the job because he's gotten or he's had so much success so quickly.
Could be. I don't know. If I'm going next 5 years, no particular order, Tommaso Ciampa.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going Aleister Black. I'm going Seth Rollins. I am going Rick. I have to throw a woman in. Ricochet would be probably my 6th then. I'm believing the momentum right now of Becky. I think Becky's going to surpass Charlotte. I know the lineage with Charlotte, and I'm not saying she's not going to get pushed to the moon, but I believe that Becky, and in this anti-hero character, there's something that people haven't felt in years since Daniel Bryan and the Yes Movement started. Before that, it wasn't until Steve Austin.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these people that come in and it's the pushback against the system and the person who never was supposed to make it.
Well, that's the perfect way you can correlate it because Becky is like Austin, Charlotte is like The Rock. She has the lineage in her blood,
Yep.
and that's how it works. Becky comes from out of nowhere and is just gritty and grinding her way through everything.
So I'm going to hang it on Becky. I'm keeping Ronda out because I don't think she'll be there within the next 2.5 years. And my final person is going to be The Miz. I absolutely think that the machine is behind Miz. Even now, it's only a matter of time before Miz finally gets that title run. And I believe that they are going to really hang their hats on Miz going forward. I think Miz might end up a year from now being the guy in the company. And I don't, especially if they turn him face, I think that his character can still work. And his in-ring work is so much better than it was a couple of years ago. I was talking about this recently with Billy. Billy Thrasher, one of the founders of Lazy Booking.
The founding fathers.
The founding fathers.
Yes.
And we were talking about Miz. And when you watch Miz matches 2 or 3 years ago, and the character was always good. Maybe I feel like underappreciated, but still evolving to where it is today. But when you watch, he was always a good worker, but there was always 1 or 2 spots in a match that looked off or didn't look right or a botch. And I would always point that out. You see him now, and you don't see that stuff. He has chemistry with everybody almost that he works. And I feel like everyone who's been in feuds with him, with the exception of Daniel Bryan recently, which was surprising, has come out looking like $1 million.
Andy asks a question. He says, realistically, how much longer does Miz have, though?
See, and that's interesting because what I was going to counter with Miz is I could see Miz going to the top very quickly and being there for a year and a half, 2 years, and drop down and go out. You know, acting, mainstream media stuff, being, you know, a father at this point. Like, I actually feel like doing Ms. and Mrs. has actually turned him into more than a WWE B-level actor. Like, I could actually see him getting more mainstream, non-WWE production acting roles.
Yep.
Because people are so in love with his character from Ms. and Mrs.
And listen, and that could be right. You absolutely could be right.
I don't hate that you have him at the top of the list. I just don't know how long he's going to be there.
And I don't know that I necessarily have him as number one, but he's one of the strongest, in my opinion, on my list just because there's something in this guy that this company has constantly kept him around. They send him out. He's already been the face. They send him out to do all the social events.
All the stuff that John Cena used to do.
He's out doing, the challenge, pros versus stars or champs versus stars, and he's out doing the reunion shows on there, not just because he was on there, but because he's a big superstar and he's a great representative of the company. And I feel like he's one of all the guys on the roster right now has the most experience of being that guy.
Speaking of which, did you want to comment on that at all?
John Cena received the Sports Illustrated Muhammad Ali Legacy Award.
Yeah.
That's a prestigious award. It's a big deal.
John and Andy gave their top 5 on the YouTube. So I'll
Throw
read
them
it
in, fellas. Let's get them.
So John Danzo says, my top 5 is Finn Balor,
Okay.
Aleister Black, Ricochet, Drew McIntyre, and AJ Styles.
Okay.
Andy Ritter gives his top 5. He says Becky, Adam Cole, Ricochet, Drew, and Ronda.
I don't know that Finn is ever going to get there. I agree that Finn should be in that
He
conversation.
should have already been there.
But I have a feeling that Finn 2 years from now may end up in Japan. I just have a feeling he may be back in NJPW.
Is that the worst
or the
thing,
Elite.
though? Honestly, though, is that the worst thing in the world, though? Because they utilized him so much better there than they did in WWE. I mean, in NXT,
it's not a knock.
It's fine, but,
I think Nakamura's going back, too, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
which is also a good thing, too, because they utilized him properly there as well.
Well, you know what's crazy, and I'll ask you guys this, because if we would have done this probably a year ago or a year and a half ago, there would have been 3 locks in my opinion. 2 we just mentioned, another one who I thought very hard about putting him on my should list, but I don't even know if it's realistic, and I wanted to ask you. If we would have done this a year and a half ago, the 3 locks would have been Nakamura, Finn, and Kevin Owens.
Yeah, no question.
I almost put Kevin Owens on this list because with this injury, and it's a blessing in disguise in my opinion because they could do a hard reset on him. But I don't know because it's not like he hasn't gotten to the top before, and then they fed him to Goldberg. And I know the whole Goldberg situation was different because it came out of nowhere, and when something like that comes out of nowhere, it takes precedent over everything. But I look back at that, and it's not his fault, but I think, well, when he was the guy on the show, it was kind of underwhelming, and it wasn't his fault. But I look at, okay, I feel like going forward, they're going to look at that, and they're going to blame him and think, oh, well, he had his moment. He had his moment.
Well, I know there was a time they were unhappy with his weight, which is surprising because even with the little bit of weight that he has, his conditioning is phenomenal.
And he does more shit in the ring than a lot of their really in shape guys.
Like when you talk about guys of that size, I mean, there's only a handful of guys who even come close to the athletic ability. I mean, I can only think of one, and that was Bam Bam Bigelow. A guy of a similar stature, even with a little bit more weight, that was able to move.
He was a bigger guy.
Samoa Joe is a guy, but he's not even flying off the top rope.
Samoa Joe is like a hybrid. He's like he's another entity.
Bam Bam's kind of like what the War Raiders are nowadays. They can do those really athletic moves that you don't expect big guys to do.
Right.
Talk about an underutilized guy when he was in WWE was Bam Bam Bigelow. He was just kind of there, and then he left. But that was a different time.
They gave him that huge spot in the main event at WrestleMania 11, and nobody can ever take it away from him.
That's true, because that was actually a really good match for someone who had never wrestled a day in their life in Lawrence Taylor.
He made
and
Lawrence
himself.
Taylor look like as much of $1 million as he was ever going to look, to where I remember after that he was thinking about pursuing wrestling going forward. He never did, but
Still, though, that was a great match.
that's a great accolade to hang on your to hang on your resume.
Very, very true.
Speaking of Bam Bam too, the Triple Threat in ECW is still one of my favorite factions.
They
of
were
all
great.
Time.
They were three guys. I mean, Candido and Shane kind of made a little bit of sense, but you threw in like Bam Bam as the enforcer of that group.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, they were great to watch. And having a guy like Shane Douglas be the mouthpiece, Bam Bam was able to work exactly as he needed to be most effective.
It was the same thing. Like, unfortunately, this was during the Russo era, so it was booked terribly. The Jersey Triad. You had Canyon, you had DDP, and you had Bam Bam Bigelow. You had the really great technical wrestler in Canyon. You had DDP, the mouthpiece, and you had Bam Bam, the enforcer. That's a great combination right there, too.
I just realized something, too. There's a bunch of guys, like, I'll just go on a list. Kevin Owens, Finn, Shinsuke Nakamura, Bray Wyatt, Dean freaking Ambrose, just to name a few, who I don't believe they were not on any of our lists. And they have been pushed as they were the start of the whole new era. And they are not making our list. And it's not a fault of ours, it's a fault of creative. Because these were the guys that were pushed that, this is the next wave. And here are 4 hardcore wrestling fans and then a few guys in the chat, and we don't see any of them going into the future.
Here's the thing, though, and this is what I wanted to say about their booking, because this has been WWE's policy. They've always had to have the guy, and that's how they've operated for years. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. You should have a face of your brand, but to focus all of your major storylines, all of your major, we need to get this guy so super over that no one else. Problem is, what happens if that guy's gone? Roman Reigns is gone. Now you have nobody. And it's like you didn't build up anybody to that position either, or at least near that level. To their credit, when they had Cena, they did have Randy Orton available, but the problem was that what happens if both of them are gone? You have nobody then. It's the same issue they're running into. It's like, yes, it's okay to have a face of your brand, but you should have a plan B ready to go, just in case life hits you like it did WWE this year. And they just were not prepared for it. That's the one thing I have to knock about their booking is they were never prepared for a possible accident to happen. They were not ready for it.
Greg just came in the chat. He just put in DDP bang bang, and then Andy put, where the hell did Greg come from? And then he says, Maddie just mentioned DDP. So
Somebody asked, I was there for this. Oh, this was terrible. Somebody asked about when the King of the Ring is going to come back. They should bring it back. Oh, Mikey, you might have been there 8 years ago in Philadelphia. Sheamus won the King of the Ring over John Morrison.
I was not there.
I was there. It was terrible. Absolutely terrible.
That Cole King Sheamus thing, wasn't he not even on WrestleMania? He was on the pre-show of
Something
WrestleMania.
like that.
That was how bad it was.
One more to drop in. 19 years ago today, Scott Hall abandoned the WCW World Television Championship, threw it in the trash. Came back very briefly in 2000 with Hacksaw Jim Duggan, but for all intents and purposes was gone. Happy birthday, JBL. And happy birthday to Hayabusa.
Oh, it's a shame his career ended way too early.
On this day in 1985, Dusty Rhodes defeated Ric Flair by disqualification at Starrcade.
Oh, Starrcade. We were just talking
from
about
the Omni in Atlanta, Georgia.
The Omni.
And the victory by disqualification kept the NWA World Championship on Ric Flair.
That's the usual kind of finish, the disputed decisions.
A lot of big birthdays today. Jerry the King Lawler and Mean Gene Okerlund today.
Wow.
Mean Gene is 79.
Well, keep on going, Mean Gene.
That's right.
Nice.
He said he wants to be buried face down so the critics can kiss his ass. I always love Gene. Gene's a good dude. I met him this year at WrestleMania. Awesome guy. Guys, great show tonight. Mikey, thanks for joining us. Thanks for deciding to show up at some point. Appreciate you deciding to show up. Maddie's going to be on a little bit of a hiatus with us, but he'll be back before you know it.
Yep.
Mr. Brodo, great job over there in the ones and twos,
Thanks,
man.
sir.
Dynamite drop-ins too, pal.
I try.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, Lazy Booking was brought to you by, as always, Gibson Mayor LLC, your certified public accounts located at 301 Oxford Valley Road in Yardley, PA. You can give a call at 215-369-3300. Tax season is about to be here, so be ready, be prepared, and call Gibson Mayor.
This is the champ signing off.
What?